Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to our channel? So turn on and remember to turn on a little bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Alright, in this video I would like to discuss how a skilled chef could actually migrate to Australia. So it's a very interesting topic and mostly asked and query all time. People will notice that the accountant and chef had recently been shifted and added into PMSOL. It's very interested how that has been inserted into such occupation list. Obviously, as the nation of Australia, it's a big nation for tourism and hospitality, and the needs of skilled chef is actually there. So how would you actually migrate by skill through chef? Let's jump into a look of how the skill assessment will work for you. Now, obviously, chef's skill assessment authority is under Trade Recognition Australia. Now, if you're not familiar with this, you might want to go back to the playlist and search for 485 visa, whereby you might study meeting the Australian study requirement, which equivalent to 2 years of full-time studies, and then you can actually transfer yourself to a 485 post-study or graduate work visa. However, we need to measure a certain timing required in regards to 485 visa, where if you only apply for a graduate work stream, you only will gain 18 months of work rights, which might not be able or might not be enough for you to actually meet this skill assessing authorities requirements. So let's jump into it and have a look what is required. So obviously the website is now pretty dynamic. The best thing that you might want to do if you have no clue what to do, or perhaps you're in the trades, not just in chef, probably a cook or carpentry or whatever as a tradesman, you might want to go to Pathfinder, because in Pathfinder it allows you to go into a Pathfinder tool, which is a very handy tool where they prompt you with numbers of very simple questions, and then they will tell you which pathway you should apply for. So for example, you have been a very experienced and skilled chef for the past 10 years. You might want to go in here and click on this one, and they will ask, have you already got a successful skill assessment outcome from trade recognition? Obviously no, because if you have, you wouldn't be here. So let's click no. So it says not eligible. So then that means you need to do a skill assessment. So let's go back to Pathway Finder. And so that's point advice. And what about I need a skill assessment for different visas. So are you this occupation? No. Okay. Is your country or passport next to your occupation in the list below? So for example, if you're a bricklayer and you're from let's say India, okay, so yes, right? Okay, then let's click on yes. Okay, and do you have the following? So do you have minimum work experience of 5 years of full-time, or perhaps 3 years of full-time? Okay, yes. Then you do an offshore skill assessment program and things like that. So it's very handy here to actually go through it, but I would like to take you into more depth for this video, the purpose of, if you're a chef, could you migrate and how can you migrate? So first thing we will come here is there are two different types. So one is obviously you have study cookery, commercial cookery in Australia, and you're required to go through the job ready program. So I'll go through that. And then if you have already got your qualification and you got RTO or whatever it is, and you have been practicing as a very experienced chef overseas or in Australia for many years, what do you do there? Okay, so I'll go through with two different types. So first, obviously if you have studied and you have recently graduate, or perhaps going to graduate very soon, obviously you might know about this, that you will be entering into what they call job ready program. So job ready program does have 4 steps. We will go through the 4, and then we will talk about the last one bit for skill chef working in or outside Australia. What do you do there? So let me read this. So provisional skills assessment, PSA, is the first step for job ready program. The purpose of PSA is verify authenticity of the Australian qualification. So they need to confirm that what you have studied, perhaps studied before commercial cookery, is at the level of the standard that Australia as a nation will actually accept and undertake in the Australian workplaces. So you may have some practice in terms. A successful PSA outcome required before you need to go to job ready employment. So there are 4 steps. So PSA, JRE, JRWA, and JRFA. So obviously this is required if you wanted to apply for 485 visa. Now bear in mind, 485 visa only provides you with 18 months of work rights, and then you cannot extend it. Now one strategic way is you might want to not just to complete diploma study 4, but enter into Bachelor of Hospitality. So then you'll be able to access to PSW, which may be 2 to 4 years, provided if you study in regional. But a lot of the applicants or students may concern in regards to additional tuition fees there. But again, this is for you to actually measure, because if you have enough time to accrue through job ready program, then obviously you cannot even migrate. Then the whole courses of study commercial cookery will be wasted. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're in the MLTSSL. So that's pretty obvious. So chef is in that list there. So eligibility, let's have read. The primary visa holder of the international students visa studying in Australia. So you need to have a visa and study in Australia. Okay, have a qualification directly related to the nominated occupation. So if you're a cook, if you're a chef, you got a certificate for commercial cookery. Okay, and then you, during the course of your study as a chef, you have complete minimum of 360 hours of employment and vocational placements. So that is generally been placed by the institution, for example TAFE or private colleges. They will put you into a placement, employment or work. It has to directly related to your occupation in Australian workplace. Okay, so it must be in Australia, and that's the hard part for these 2 years, because obviously the issue of the virus and a lot of lockdown and things, and people cannot go work. You can't do cookery work while you're at home, right? Okay, complete within 3 years immediate prior submitting JRP. Okay, so that's first. You need to have the right qualification and complete 360 hours of the vocational placement. Now then you move on. That basically, when you move on to this is when you graduated, and perhaps you're waiting for your 485 visa, on the bridging visa. Now you may move on, continue to work for a particular employment. Make sure you are working as a chef. Okay, if you only work as a cook, that cannot be counted. Or if you're working as an accountant, that cannot be counted. Okay, you have to work as a chef. Okay, now the step 2 is job ready employment. So once you got taught, you got all the skill, all you need to do is accrue your employment experiences. So you have successfully completed step 1, which is the PSA, and hold and apply for the right visa, unrestricted work right. So that's basically 485. Have secure eligible employment in the same occupation. So obviously that's gonna be chef. Okay, now what you need to do here is during this time you need to accrue at least 1,725 hours within the last 12 months. So you spend 12 months. If you only got a 485 undergraduate visa, you got 18 months. So the first 12 months you need to get this done, and then you only have 6 months left. So if you already got this done, then there's a bold word here. You can claim up to 3 consecutive months of pay employment undertaken immediately before apply JRE. So that means there may be a time required for you to prepare a visa and also prepare for the JRE. So during those time, it can still be counted. That's what they're trying to say. Employment verification. It is your responsibility to find a suitable employment which will be approved by Trade Recognition Australia. Trade Recognition Australia will conduct online verification, check and confirm existing the authenticity of the workplace. So they will check. They will not just accept stuff, but they will actually check stuff. Okay. Skill progress report. So this SPR, you're required to provide complete skill progress report 6 months after JRE started date. So that's basically a report that's required to be signed by your employer. It can be self-assessed. So obviously, but you need to testify. Make sure you do not provide fake things, because fake thing will cause a lot of problems. So that's step 2. So once you have completed 1 year, that's equivalent to or more than 1,725 hours of work. Then you move on to step 3. So again, if you're on the 485 visa, you got 6 months left. So see how this one goes. Okay. Now, this job ready placement assessment, to be eligible, obviously you need to provide evidence of pay employment occupation for at least 863 hours or minimum 6 months from your JRE start date. Now that's tough. What I'm saying is, if you already spent 12 months and then another 6 months of this, okay, then your 485 visa is already ceased and terminated or expired. How are you gonna continue? And we are still only at step 3. Now that's a problem. That's a problem. Whether or not the government of Australia has identified this, I think they did, but they haven't done anything about it. Okay, so it's not enough time for people to actually complete the whole. Well, I've seen people complete it, but in a few, not in the bulk. Okay, so that means upon your graduation, you got a job on the first day, and then you lodge everything on the first day, and you get everything completed on the date, without a doubt. Now that's gonna be very extremely hard. Okay, and have your employer sign with EVR, which is the form for employment reference, and that's again. That's gonna be hard. So let's jump into the final step. Now, job ready final assessment. It's the 4 steps, and eligibility is you must complete step 3 and have complete employment requirement and provide evidence of pay employment for at least 1,725 hours over the minimum 12 months from your JRE start date. So you see that JRE start date, that means another half year. That means your minimum is you require 24 months from what we calculated, because 12 months for the PSA, right? And then you get into JRE. Once you get into JRE, and then you got another 6 months, you put JRWA, and then 6 months later you got JRFA. So that, and then you get to meet this requirement. So that means 2 year full-time works. Now let's come back a little bit. If you're an international student and you only apply for a 485 visa, that that only lasts for 18 months for work rights, how can you complete that? Now that's a question mark. That's going to be very hard, and that is why we come back to the first question that I always recommend. If you seeking to only do a trades or diploma, perhaps you may need to think twice to have a secondary courses that connected to a bachelor degree, where it can actually provide you, more, work right to actually get it done. I've seen so many, they are trapped in there, and then during the course of 485 visa, they're looking to actually extend it into 408 or 407, which require employer sponsor, and that's gonna be not that easy. It's going to be very complex. Okay, now let's go into the different types of the skill migration for a chef. So this time we're looking at this one. This is for migration skill assessment. So apart from the job ready program, you may graduate and work, and then you left Australia, you continue to work, and you're an experienced chef, a very skilled chef. So then obviously your work experience is much extensive than a newbie, just from a graduate newbie. Okay, so the guideline here is what we're gonna see here. So I've already got that opened up, so I'm gonna show you, and let's jump into 3E. Where did it go? Okay, employment. Okay, now this part here is basically where, okay, right, this is the right table that we need to especially pay attention on. Okay, so if you're a skilled chef, okay, you are required to demonstrate either to pass the skill assessment. Now you need to know that passing a skill assessment is the first step to general skill migration. If you don't have a skill assessment, we're talking about migration, that's nonsense. There's no use of talking about migration. You need to pass skill assessment. So for example, if you've been working, you study commercial cookery, and then you work 2 years, and then you left Australia, and then you're back in India, or perhaps in USA or Dubai, anywhere else, and you continue to work and employ as a chef for additional whatever the years. Okay, so then if you have the qualification issued internationally, okay, make sure that it's internationally. It cannot be just a local recognized license. It has to be international recognized license. Now you might want to check the authority that issued you the actual license or registration, or perhaps you have the Australian qualification, okay, issued through study and not through RPL. Okay, make sure it's not RPL. Then all you need to do is prove that you have 3-year full-time equivalent employment undertake after qualification was issued. Then you'll pass that skill assessment. Okay, so if it's issued in 2020, then obviously you need to have years of work experiences from 2020 onwards. Okay, cannot count on any other work experiences prior to the issuance date of that qualification. Now, if you have been very skillful and working as a chef but without a qualification, you may get an RPL, okay, Australian qualification issued by RPL. Then watch here, 3-year full-time equivalent employment undertake after RPL certificate was issued, okay, or 6-year full-time or equivalent part-time employment, which can be combination of employment undertake before and after RPL was issued. Okay, so for example, 4-year employment before RPL was issued, and then 2 years after RPL was issued. So this is very important. Again, now talking about having a large, successful skill assessment for a chef onshore as a graduate international student, personally I think that's going to be very hard, because again, you see the experiences required to be accrued, whether you're going through job ready program or a migration skill program where it require 3 years after qualification, or RPL, you know, a combination of 6 years, 5 years, then that's gonna be very complex and difficult. But again, I think we need to get this straight, because a lot of people come to Australia and study in the course and think about, upon graduate and get a job, they can actually stay and get more visa and migrate. But a detailed planning is required. Anyway, what is your thought? Why don't you leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.